Another therapy session. Today is the 23rd of March, 2021. 1 second, please. Voila! Did I just magically appear there? I'm being cute. I'm cute. Yes, it's true. I really can't help it, but what can you do when you're cute? It just shows. With these two darling eyes and this cute little nose. And this pretty pink dress, it's adorable, yes. And when they see my dimples and everyone says, oh shoot, isn't she cute, cute, cute? Oh baby, she's cute, cute, cute. I'm the one they adore. I'm sweet and I'm cuddly and small just like Dudley, but more. It's a chore to be constantly cute. Something, something to boot. And when da 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 da. I can't remember the words. That's okay. Therapy's starting right now anyway. I'm in a mood, aren't I? It's not bad. Not a bad mood.
Hello.
Hello.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
How's it going?
I think I'm okay right now. I was struggling earlier and last night and all kinds of things, but yeah, I'm okay right now.
Good. Okay, that's good. Were you able to get through it?
I think so. Like last night, I had to go pick up the kids after the therapy session. And it was the first time I'd be going over to Jim's place, and I was nervous. And he came out to the car and he brought me some mail that I had been waiting for. And he was hardly speaking to me whatsoever. And then he left. And then the kids got in the car and we went to the grocery store. And I saw the steaks on sale again. And Matthew said, oh, I want to learn how to make steaks. I wish Dad would have taught me how to make steaks, Mom. I could make you steaks, because Matthew likes to cook, right? And I said, well, maybe you could ask him one of these times. And he goes, yeah, maybe. And then, of course, my conniving little brain gets to thinking, and I end up getting some steaks in the cart. And I basically end up buying stuff for my house and stuff for Jim's house so that the kids and him could have steaks. And that way Jim could teach Matthew how to make steaks. And then I got steaks for my house. So after Matthew learns, Matthew can come to my place and show me what he's learned. Like I was thinking I was being smart or something. And it was also getting me excited to go and show Jim that I bought him some steaks, because that was always something that gave me that validation from him, and that would always give me that, that thumbs up approval, that's what I was crying about at the grocery store Sunday with Brooklyn, is like that was one of the things that I could do to get in his good graces, and that's something I enjoyed doing, was buying steaks so that he could cook steaks and he could tell me if I bought the right kind, or tell me that, try to get the kind with this marbling of fat better, like he was trying to always guide me on which ones tasted better or cooked better or were better tender or better cut of meat, So it was just one of those little things between me and Jim that always made me feel like I was getting it, like I was getting it better, Especially when they go on sale, right? It makes you go, oh, I can practice this little skill that he's taught me about buying meat, I don't know. It was kind of dumb, but now that Matthew wants to learn how to cook steaks, I thought, sure, yeah, let's do that. So we separated the bags, and Matthew went inside the house and Jim wasn't there. And I was really let down and disappointed, because I kept imagining this reunion of us getting together and making out over steaks. Like I I was so in this, I don't know, this moment of feeling like this was going to be something, right, that I get to relish in for a second and just get that, I guess, like a high, right? I was hoping for it. So Matthew's inside and he says, I'll just leave a note for Dad. And Matthew comes back out and he says he left Post-it notes everywhere. He's got some in the freezer and some in the pantry and some in the because we bought all the fixings for the steaks, the mashed potatoes and the corn, and we've got him a candy bar and we put it, in different places, and the steaks went in the freezer. So I just thought it was cute that Matthew was all into it also. And Matthew gets back in the car and Jim's walking up to my car with the dog. He had went on a walk with the dog. And so Jim comes up to my window and Matthew is so excited to tell him all about this. And he's like, you did? And I'm like, yeah. And then when Jim started leaving, I told him to come here, and he gets a little closer, and I said, come here, and then he gets a little closer, and he'll come here. And then I gave him a big peck on the mouth, and I told him I loved him, and I missed him, and I'm sorry that we have to go through this, but this is part of what we need to do. And he was like, I thought I was trying to respect you by not talking to you too much. I just wanted to get you your mail. And I go, I know, and I appreciate that. And okay, I'm going to go now, and I left. And I was feeling like I wasn't ashamed of myself, but I wasn't proud either. Like I wasn't sure exactly what I was experiencing. And it was discouraging because it feels like I was starting the pendulum up again, or, falling off the wagon, or, that teeter-totter started going again. The muddiness started feeling. And so I told a friend about it this morning, and I was telling her, because every time somebody tells me they're proud of me, I want to be proud of me too, but I don't want it to be with false pretenses. So I want to make sure I'm honest about where I don't feel so proud of myself. So I was confessing that I gave him a peck last night, and she says, Crystal, that's fine. All you did was reassure him that you still love him and that you've got something to fight for, and he has something to fight for. So it's okay. You didn't move back in with him. You didn't stop, your growth process, or you're still, what'd she say? You're still 4 days sober, or whatever she called it. Like, like even though I gave him a peck on the lips, I'm still 4 days sober. And I'm like, really? You think so? Okay, that's a good perspective. I guess I'll have to talk to my therapist about it tonight, because I was thinking I wasn't, I thought, like, because I remember you telling me a while ago that it's okay to reassure him before I go somewhere, but I still get to go somewhere, And so I think that's what I did last night, is I still left. I still went home with my kids to make dinner, but I bought him steaks and gave him a kiss.
I agree with that.
So I don't feel like it's like 100% no Jim, I feel like it's this muddy Jim thing.
You know what, Crystal? He's still your husband. Okay? This separation is a separation for you guys to find yourselves and work on yourselves. Okay? There is nothing wrong with what you did. I understand the feeling of questioning the motives and all of that, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay. How
do you feel about it?
I think because I'm getting so many different perspectives about what I've lived through and what I need to escape from and what is going to be the solution. I have to keep reminding myself that other people's perspectives on what I'm experiencing is based on their own experiences, or based on their observations, or based on even just the little bit of information that I've told them. I haven't given everybody the ins and out of everything. They may have only heard this one story about this one time when I wasn't allowed to go to a swimming pool or to the movies, or he flipped out about a guy's shirt off, And even though all that's really bad and that's not okay for a married couple to do to each other, if that's my 8% anchovies on the perfect pizza and I'm trying to pluck the anchovies off the perfect pizza, why can't I still have the perfect pizza once the anchovies are gone? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. But here's the thing, Crystal. Like, how do you So it's based off of your own perspective, right? And that's all that matters, right? Someone else's perspective on this situation doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is your perspective.
And I think because I have this dependency on other people's perspective to help guide me, I think that's what makes it muddy for me. You know what I mean?
So you don't trust your own perspective.
Right. Not all the time. Like sometimes I feel pretty good about it and I feel pretty balanced and pretty level-headed. But then when I'm having a moment of weakness, I seek out validation from others based on what they think I should do or feel or think.
Here's my take on it. It's not as much about changing behavior, okay? Because you have two parts to this. You have the fact that you went, you bought the steaks, you brought them over there, you kissed them, all that, okay? Those are actions, behaviors, right? But they're born out of your perspective, okay? Right?
Yeah.
So it's not about changing behaviors. It's about being confident in the perspective that you have, okay? Now, if you don't trust your perspective or you believe your perspective is skewed, then if the perspective changes, then the behavior usually follows. Okay? Right?
So if I have enough perspective outside telling me to leave him and get out and get to safety, and then my behavior is get out and get to safety, but that's still not my experience that I need safety. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like I feel, yeah, I'm kind of confused.
I understand what you mean. I think there's part of this to where you don't trust your own perspective because your perspective is being skewed by everyone else's perspective.
And sometimes including Jim. Yeah, sometimes his perspective skews me too.
Yeah, I think that's pretty normal for that to happen. But how do you, here's the thing though, is how do you change a perspective? Right? If you see things the way you see things, okay, how do you change that if you feel like it's wrong? What do you do to change that? I mean, nothing that anyone says to you necessarily is going to change that. I believe perspectives only change through some sort of an awakening. Okay, some sort of a like aha moment. Like, oh my God, this is wrong the way I see this, and this is right. And we go through moments like that in life where, I mean, think about the things that really change your perspective in life. Somebody dies, and it's like, oh my God, life is so short. I've been so focused on all these little menial things, but now, because this happened, I see that what really matters is, fill in the blank, right? That's how perspectives change.
I actually want to talk to you about that real quick.
You identify with something.
Right. Because what you mentioned right there reminded me of something I wanted to talk to you about that happened over the weekend. I had an aha moment. Okay. There was a little interview thing where a woman interviewed another woman in her 30s who has unexpectedly become a widow. So her husband died of a heart attack. They have a 4 and 6-year-old children, and she's having to navigate this world without her husband now. And, their will wasn't completed. She didn't expect him to die. There was this, this unspoken love forever. There's pictures of him all over the house. If she should ever get remarried, the next guy's going to have to incorporate this into his okay and understanding that she's always going to love her husband that passed away, and the children will too. We're not just edging him out. It's not like a divorce. Basically, all the things that she said in this interview, this widow reminded me of what I felt like in my 30s. In my early 30s, before I turned 38 years old, I was so fearful and anxious that my husband might die young, because his best friend died when he was 35 years old, and my dad died when he was 38, and I was in my 30s begging for life insurance on him and me. Like, I couldn't fathom being a widow like my stepmom had to be, you know, and my dad did the life insurance so she could pay off the house in case he died, and all these things that were happening in my 30s. I felt like I was preparing myself and my children and overlooking all the BS that Jim provided, because I knew how short life was, my perspective of how short life could be, and I didn't want to focus on Jim's negative. I didn't care to make that the center of my world or feel like a victim. I saw the beauty in him like everybody saw the beauty in my dad after he died. Nobody really appreciated my dad while he was living, or his long-winded talks, or his perspective of the world, or anything like that. It wasn't until after he died that we put him on a pedestal. So I put my husband on a pedestal from the get-go. And so I realized this after watching this interview with this woman, that this makes total sense on why I was so blind to all the abuse crap that Jim put me through, is because I refused to see it. I refused to look at the menial stuff like you just mentioned, and I saw value in him as a person and all the great things that he brings to my life and the kids' life. And I kept focusing so hard on the pizza underneath the anchovies, not the anchovies themselves, you know. And it worked for quite a while, because it's like what you think about, you bring about. And if you focus on the negative, you bring more negative, right? But it seems like after I turned 38, death wasn't so fearful, or I wasn't so anxious about it anymore, especially after I went on that hike for my dad, and I released so much of that thing with my dad, you know, and I felt like there was a lot of closure with that. And so things just started speeding up and ramping up of what I'm okay with and what I'm not okay with, and what happened to my life, and why am I not honoring what I want to do here, and why is he stopping me, and why do I let him stop me, and what's that all about? So you've been on this journey with me, so you understand. But this awakening of my perspective from my 30s to now definitely shifted to be more self-centered, focused, or I don't think that's the right word, but basically to include me, not to discard me, all for the sake of death. I think having a PTSD with an early death is what caused me to be susceptible to the abuse. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, yeah.
So now your perspective changed from what it was to what it is now, where you feel like you should be, you know, respected and treated with love and validated, and, you know, and I would tell you this, that your perspective of yourself is the most important thing. Right? The way you see yourself has to take precedence over everything else, because what's the point of having a positive or negative perspective on anything else if you don't have a positive perspective on yourself?
Right. And
that has to take precedence, I think.
I think I do have a lot of good perspective about myself. It's not so cut and dry, and it's not all or nothing, or all the time, or never the time, you know. The thing about my perspective between my 30s and now is I don't think I changed perspectives. I just think I incorporated more perspectives. Like my Google camera analogy, I just got more cameras on my head that I can see more of the picture. I don't have just one vision of that intersection. Now I have several different visions of that intersection, and I can see it all at the same time. So while I'm watching this video of this woman talking about her husband and how she said we weren't perfect, we weren't the best, we had our arguments, we had our fair share of problems, but, you know, now that he's gone, all I can do is honor his memory. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, wow, what would happen if Jim died of a heart attack now? Or what would happen if he got hit by a car or whatever? I started going into this remorseful, like, same identity feeling from 10 years ago that I used to be in, where that's all I would focus on. And I started to regret my decision moving in here. I keep looking for reasons to regret this, which is dangerous. I don't want to do that, but it's another perspective that I keep noticing that's there. So I still have this love and honor and respect for my husband and all his goodness, and I don't want to negate that. And at the same time, I'm not a victim unless I allow him to victimize me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like...
Right. Yeah, and I agree with you. It's more about balancing those perspectives that completely change it.
Right.
It's not about saying, "Oh, I honored him and loved him and looked at all the good qualities in him, and now I'm not going to do that anymore."
Right.
It's like, but now I also understand that there are some other things that he can work on that are affecting me in a negative way. So I like your analogy. It's almost like a police, body cam.
Mm-hmm.
You remember back a year ago with the body cam thing was big because of all the police brutality, right? And so you'd see one body cam and you would get one perspective, and then like a week later they're like, oh, here's another section of body cam from another officer, and it's like, oh, okay, now I can see it a different way. Now it gives you more information.
Right, because that's exactly what you get when you look at it from a different perspective. Even when you're looking at a building, it looks like it's further away than it is, or it's got a different height when you're down this low compared to when you're looking at it more eye level. Like perspective is such an interesting thing because two perspectives or more could still be right. Like that little cartoon drawing where one person sees a 6 but the other person sees a 9, but they're both right. I really have been trying to get Jim to understand that there could be more than one perspective here, and both of us can be right in our own perspectives. And if you can include another perspective, then you've got some growth that's happened, and you can. So I think that's where I'm just.
Yeah, and I agree. I think Jim, has seen things one way for a long time.
Yeah.
And now he's just starting to see the other side of it, too. And so for in a marriage, it's essential that both perspectives maybe not change, but that he understands your perspective as well as his own perspective.
That's actually been my deal breaker lately.
I really think that's the key.
Yeah, my deal breaker lately is that he needs to show me that he understands my perspective, not just continuously apologize for what he's done. Because he won't specifically tell me that he understands what he's done. He just says stuff like, I know I've hurt you. I know I've been an asshole. I can't believe what I've done to you. You have every right to be mad at me. Like, those are really great things to hear, considering he's never been willing to be wrong before. However, I don't think he quite understands my perspective in a present situation. So like when I'm at the Denny's with him and I say, I feel like I'm speaking a different language to you, and he starts to get defensive and everything, he can say, if he understood that there's a perspective thing here, he could say, I'd like to understand your perspective. How am I not understanding? Can you maybe try to explain it to me in how you see it, rather than just getting defensive? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, and that's definitely something that he can learn, to do. It sounds like what you're saying is that when he's alone at the house, he understands your perspective, but when in the moment when you guys are having a discussion, he may not understand it as much as he appears to.
Right, because he can't seem to verbalize it or just listen, just let me speak without a rebuttal or without an argument. Another thing that I recalled when I went home last night, home here, right, and I'm leaving his house, I'm thinking to myself, he probably has comfort tonight knowing that I've got the kids, knowing that I'm not going to be with some random guy. You know what I mean? Like, I started going into these habitual ways of thinking because I would predict what he's thinking and feeling, right? And then I got to thinking about how less possessive he's been since I've left the house. And I can't really tell you if it's because I'm not around to witness it or if he really is less possessive because I'm not around. Like, he's basically lost me and he's had to tone that down a bunch. And so I was asking Google, I said, what makes somebody possessive? And they said that it's an attachment style, an anxious attachment style of feeling like they're going to lose somebody or that they're going to be rejected or that they're going to be abandoned or something, right? And so that whole borderline personality thing came up again because it's like, okay, so is it possible that me and him can have this relationship where I have my own place and he has his own place, and we can have this relationship where it's not about him possessing me and he gets to be on his best behavior because he doesn't get to do that. And once he starts doing that, I leave. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's healthy, though. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
Well, I mean, I think that I believe that that would be a step towards, resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think, like, before you just decide to move back in there, I think that would be a step towards that.
Right.
Like, let's start dating again, and then we'll see where that leads. Maybe that will lead to me coming back. Maybe it'll change our perspective again. Mm-hmm. Who knows? But I think if you ever decided to go down that road, maybe not have any, finalized words like this is leading here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's just take it by day, see if our perspective changes. But yeah, I mean, we said from the beginning that this is not meant to be I'm leaving and I'm never coming back. This is a step to try to salvage your marriage, right?
I think.
So, and don't listen to what anybody else tells you. If this is the direction that you feel compelled to go towards, this is you. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, right?
I think because I've said both. Yeah. It's because I've said both ways to myself and to others. It's not been very clear to myself either. Well, I think it does depend on whatever noodle thing I've got going on in there, but like I've told you, even if he did all the things I asked him to do and I can trust that he's going to do all the things that I asked him to do from here on out, and he's changed and I'm better or whatever, I still don't think I like him very much as a person because there's just so many things that we've clashed on that I just, I don't think you're the type of person that I would fall for if I just met you today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's me being honest with myself. So I can't quite say that I'm in love with him. I think I'm just longing for that familiarity and that comfortable, and I already know that, and there is a lot of wonderful things that I loved about our relationship and our marriage together. And so if I continue to treat it like an addiction, that is not serving me very well. I think I could get my head on straighter and it won't feel so muddy.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a client who is a 5-year-old little girl. Okay?
Okay.
So her dad left out of the blue and made her feel like that she was to blame for him leaving. Okay? I don't know if he directly said what he said to her, but for whatever reason, she feels like he left in large part because of her. Okay, 5-year-old little girl.
That's too bad.
So her mother was telling me that she is now starting to seek validation on almost a constant basis. Saying things like, I don't feel like you love me today. Or she'll come home from school saying, I don't feel loved. And, her mom is going through this where she's trying to make her feel, she'll hug her, she'll spend time with her, but none of it seems to be enough.
Right.
And I can almost see this becoming a pattern in her life of being addicted to validation.
Yeah, especially when she becomes a teenager.
Like
if she becomes a teenager, she might, fall into the wrong crowd or with the boys, or I could totally see that too happening.
Sure. So her mom told me, I show her love, I show her affection all the time. It's almost on a constant basis, but it's not enough. I wish I could find a way to convince her that she is enough, and just because of who she is and that I love her. So what would your advice be to, as the adult, that you are now, like, how would you change that little girl's perspective?
This
is good for you
because I have a little girl inside me. I do. Like, I recognize where you're going with it.
But here's the thing. But you also have a healthy adult inside of you.
Right.
Okay, so what would you say to that little girl? Like, how would you convince her that she doesn't need to have that constant validation, that she is good enough, and that she is loved? It's a good question, huh?
It is a good question, and I have 2 go-to statements that I would probably try. Not saying that they'd be perfect, but
okay.
The one my dad mentioned to me when I was 11 years old, and I'll remind you what that was in a minute. But the other one I said to my niece, who is being torn back and forth between her 2 parents, who are very toxic in their own right when it comes to talking about each other, and she flips on a dime on what she wants depending on who she's with. And I recognize that so deeply because that's how I was with both parents. So I really identify and relate to my niece. So the advice that I've given my niece is that she gets to be who she is, whoever that is, regardless on anybody else and all that. And she needs to learn to love herself and validate herself and all that. And she's 13 and stuff, so she's 14 now, but she can understand that a little better because, parents and friends and family and classmates and teachers, all those come and go, but at the end of the day, she needs to recognize that her vase with the holes will never be fulfilled by anybody else until she can patch her own holes with her own duct tape and her own glue and whatever. But that's one thing that I said to her. My other thing is my dad recognized there was nothing he could do to take the place of my mom, who had left and abandoned me, and there was nothing he could do to change my mind about how I felt about my mom. And so what his go-to statement was I'm really sorry that your mom did that to you. I'm really sorry that she's not your fantasy mom. But I want you to remember that you can have your fantasy mom someday, and that's when you become the fantasy mom for your kids. And so at a very early age, I recalled my imaginary best friend Jennifer, who was a very motherly figure in my memory and would talk to me softly and would listen to me and just be there for me. And it was almost like this inner part of me that would basically mother me. And so when my dad mentioned my fantasy mom at 11 years old, I remembered her. And then I knew what she looked like, and I knew what she would feel like, and I knew what she would smell like, and what she would say to me, and all that stuff. So it was almost like she was there with me at all times. So if this little girl, and I knew this little girl, I might ask her to imagine what her fantasy father feels like, or what her fairy godmother might say in this situation, because the mom can't do it all the time for her. But if she can create this older self inside of her, she might be able to rely on her to soothe her in those moments of doubt, when she's having moments of doubt of who she is, or who she's loved by, or if she's doing enough, or if she's enough, you know what I mean? And she could create this fantasy woman in her mind, or even if it's a father figure, who knows what she needs. But I don't know, to me, that's such a sad little life. And if she's not consistently doing it, she'll fall back on the habitual ways of looking for validation, which is, it's like a drug, right? Yeah. You seek it out because it's an easy fix. Yeah. Mom. And if mom keeps doing it, that's just enabling her. So that's another problem. It's like mom needs to say, you need to go take a 10-minute meditation. You need to go find that love within yourself. You know that I love you no matter what, but you need to go lay down and go find it for yourself. Something like that, kind of tough love, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And I asked you that because I thought it would be a good exercise for you.
And I didn't.
Also, because I was curious.
You're curious what I thought?
I was curious on your. Also, for the flat out advice.
Yeah.
Right? Because, it's tough. A 5-year-old little girl, it's tough to convince a 5-year-old little girl that she is enough.
And she's never going to be convinced. Yeah. Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz didn't know she had the power all along until she went through the forest and got all the way to the end and was told that she doesn't need the wizard to get home. She can click her heels 3 times and you've had the power all along. That resonated with me deeply about 5 or 6 years ago, whatever it was. And I was like, holy cow, I don't need all these drugs or all these therapies or all these books or all these people or all this validation outwardly. I have the power within me this whole time. But you can't just convince anybody, whether they're almost 40 or 5 years old. You can't convince them they're enough right away. They've got to go through their own journey. And it sucks that she's so young and she's got such a long ways to go to all that self-discovery. But kids are quick to learn too, so that'd be an interesting one to kind of get her to see, like an Inside Out movie where Riley discovers for herself that she can have happiness and sadness in the same ball. She can go home and cry about it to mom and dad that this isn't what I want, but I'm going to try to make the best of it. there's so many powerful messages out there that
Yeah.
resonate with me that could resonate with kids. But
Yeah. But yeah, I was interested, in your perspective on that.
when I answered right now,
It's a tough one.
I didn't think about it for myself. I definitely depersonalized from it so that I wouldn't try to apply it to myself in my own situation. That just takes a whole nother level of thinking. But
But that's the concept with you, Crystal, is you have the answers, right? And you have the ability to go back and tell your inner child that she is enough, okay? And convince her that. So use your skills, use your knowledge, use your perspective, use what you know about the world and what you've come to believe. That's you have it all within you.
I think what I need to remind myself is that it's not, there's no right or wrong. I keep looking for this right answer, or this, am I doing it wrong?
There's not a right or wrong to it. It is all about perspective. It's all about what you believe. And you're right. Like you said, I don't need all these drugs. I don't need all this therapy. I don't need all this and this and this. If you can just believe that you're enough and find a way to begin to change your perspective on yourself and who you are, everything else will follow, right?
Yeah.
It's like what we said about, the tree example, where, you can't take a tree. A tree's leaves are the outward appearance of what everybody sees, right? Oh, that's a pretty tree, or oh, that tree is dying, or, we judge a tree based on its leaves. People judge us based on our behaviors, right? What we put out there to people. But a tree's leaves can't be changed. It's the root of the tree that makes up what the tree is, right? The leaves are neither right or wrong, they just are, right?
Yeah.
Your behaviors, they're not right or wrong. They're just the natural product of who you are. And so if you can change the way you see who you are, you won't even have to worry about the other stuff. It'll naturally follow.
Right. And when you're the trunk of the tree and your leaves and whatever branches are doing their thing every season, you still stay sturdy in knowing who you are, because like the moon, it's going to have its phases, and you can't really,
right.
You can control your behavior to an extent, but you don't need to be obsessed about it, because you are who you are at the base of it all, Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, and there are times and there are seasons where trees lose all their leaves,
Mm-hmm.
and their leaves die. But it doesn't mean the tree is unhealthy, right? The tree still knows it's a tree. And you see what I'm saying? Like, there's going to be times in your life where you feel like, you're doing everything wrong, or your behaviors aren't lining up. But as long as you are confident and believe in who you are, and believe that you're enough, and that root is healthy, all of the other stuff in a real way just takes care of itself. The problem with some forms of therapy is it focuses on behavior change. It does very little to change someone's view of who they really are and their perspective. And it's like trying to change the leaves of a tree without, you can't do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be pretending. if you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a fake tree.
That makes sense.
That you see in the mall.
Like you've established the importance of the core values. That's at the base of the tree, because if you know your core values in and out, your behaviors will follow suit naturally, not based on whatever you're painting your roses red. Do you have the
right.
do you have the red paint at the root?
You're right. It's all about it's all about your core values.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's the other thing. This is kind of interesting. Have you ever seen, like, during Easter time, they'll have those carnations that are like all these different bright fluorescent colors. The way they do that is they do it through the root. They put
food dye,
water with dye in it, and they put the carnation in the dye, and it changes the appearance of it. But the only way to do that is through the root of it.
Right.
It's very much like changing someone's perspective changes the outward. It produces different behaviors.
Right.
So I really do believe that perspective and who you believe you are is really everything when it comes to changing behaviors and all of that. With this little 5-year-old girl, right? I could go in and teach her how, say that this. What if I went in and said, look, don't ask for hugs anymore. Don't ask for, you can't do that. Don't ask for, people to validate you. Without doing anything to change how she feels about herself, she could change her behaviors, but she would just be going through the motions. She wouldn't believe any of it.
Yeah, and then she'd feel like she's limited on what she's allowed to say and ask for and all that.
Right, and it does nothing to solve the real core issue, right, of not feeling like she's enough.
Earlier today, I had someone upset with me because of what happened to our friend group. And they said, how could you? All you wanted to do was talk about yourself, and now our friends are all done. And I'm all, whoa. Where did you get this perspective from? Because in my perspective, nobody told me what I did wrong. They just said I was talking about my husband too much. But every day I would apologize for talking about my situation too much because I was looking for validation and assistance and guidance and getting out on the daily. And they said, it's okay, Crystal. This is your time. This is your thing. If anybody doesn't want to be here, they can leave. I was told that repetitively. So people sometimes left and people sometimes stayed. So when they all chose to leave at the exact same time and nobody chose to talk to me except for one person, it just became this like, wait. Now you're telling me that I broke everybody up? No. That's not who I am. That's not what happened. That's not my perspective of it. But I am still willing to learn what happened. So then I started going down this rabbit hole of what can I do to help them see my perspective? What can I do to help them change their perspective so that they can like me? And I go, no. And then I settled about an hour ago. I settled on, I am who I am. And if they don't like me, then they don't like me. And I don't need to rush through to try to get them to like me. And I was totally fine with that. And I came on the other side of it liking who I was and being done with whatever they...
Right.
I mean, I think I had good friendships with them, but obviously not if they're not even willing to listen in my perspective, about what happened. So it's like, whatever.
Right, and that's it. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And here's the thing, is not everyone's going to like you.
Right.
Not everyone's different, and you have to be okay with that.
Right.
Like, I am who I am. If people don't like it, then they don't have to like it.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's why...
Being confident in this is who I am.
Right. That's why when you asked me when I first got on here, I'm pretty good right now. I'm singing, I'm talking to myself like I'm totally A-okay, and I don't have this weight lifted over my shoulders like I've got something to prove or somebody to prove it to. It's like I am enough without their validation. They chose to be a part of my life, and they chose out. End of the story, end of chapter. I'm learning from it, and I'd like to learn more from what happened so I can, if there's behaviors I should be changing about the core of who I am.
But,
like,
but it's only going to come, right, it's only going to come, though, through a change in perspective.
right.
Like, oh, okay, I see now I did something wrong.
Right.
Okay, maybe you do realize that.
Right.
Maybe you don't. But you can't change the roots through the leaves. And that's what I think you've done, at some point in time in your life in the past,
Mm-hmm.
is you try to change who you are by changing the leaves, the outward appearance.
Right.
The only way you can change the leaves is through the root.
Right. And I am open.
Change the root of the leaf.
I'm very open to perspectives. I've always been very adaptable to perspectives, which I think it's a double-edged sword because it can create a very diverse person to be able to listen to multiple perspectives, multiple political views, multiple religious point of views, multiple personality styles or therapy styles. It's like, I feel like I've got such a broad understanding of different perspectives that I'm not stuck on any which one, which keeps me a very adaptable, flexible person to talk to listen, all that stuff. But on the flip side of that, I can get very muddy and very confused about what I believe. And I tend to do the mirroring, adopting, depending on who I'm talking to type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, what do I believe? Now that I have all these different perspectives, what do I want to show up as for Crystal so that I'm not wishy-washy within myself?
Yeah. And it's good to have, like we talked about, that constitution of, truths and core beliefs that you know for sure 100% you believe in. But remember, it's a living constitution. Like, it changes as your perspective changes, right? Like, but the key is not changing the behavior in order to change the perspective. You start with the perspective, and the behavior will follow, right? Like, your behavior is not going to change your perspective, and for that matter, your behavior. You shouldn't have to change other people's perspectives through your behavior.
I like that one.
Their perspectives are going to change on their own. But I think sometimes we get into that pattern of trying to change people through our behaviors and trying to change ourselves through our behaviors, when it's got to start with who you are, your perspective of who you really are and what you deserve and all of that.
Right. Like, okay. Me moving in here isn't about one thing or another. It's about trying on a new set of behaviors that are geared towards finding out who I am without the influence of Jim, finding out who I am without the environment where I feel stifled. Basically creating these perspectives that I've never allowed myself to have, opportunity for perspectives, and then just seeing how I behave without the pressures of everybody else telling me what I do and how I live and what to expect of me. And so, yeah, I do appreciate that, because that can be a very mind-boggling thing. This is like, okay, Jim's perspective why I'm in here is that we are on a 6-month separation, so I need to behave like I'm on a 6-month separation. My mom's perspective of why I'm here is because I left an abusive relationship, so I need to act like I'm on the way to divorce, and so all these different perspectives are clouding my head on, okay, but what am I truly feeling? What am I truly going through here? And it's because I can adopt all these perspectives that I feel like I'm on this roller coaster of emotions. And I'm like, okay, I'm not making any decisions right now because Jim hasn't proven to me that he's safe to live with. B, I'm still longing for him, but I'm not sure if that's because I'm addicted to him, or is it because I truly do want to be with him. That's still out to be determined. I really don't know that one for sure. And C, I don't think if I met this guy, because there's a guy in my apartment complex who talks to me just about every day. And he's probably in his 50s and he's buff and he's never been married and he's got the cutest little puppy and that's his chick magnet, I guess, whatever. I'm not attracted to him, but his personality is very interesting because he's very kind and he's constantly talking to me. How are you? Hey, I noticed somebody checking out your front porch. Is anything missing? He's checking in on me, but he's being very respectful from a distance. So if he started displaying behaviors like Jim, would I have these red flags go off and say, basically, yeah, Jim's red flags are still Jim's red flags that I'm going to completely stay away from, whether I'm still married to him or not. So I don't know if that's making any sense. So I'm trying to figure it all out, and yeah, I'm still kind of confused. But
it makes sense. It makes sense. Just all I'm saying right now is don't focus as much on the behaviors. Focus on what you really believe.
Okay.
Regardless of what other people say and think, what do you believe? Right? I mean, our perspectives are influenced by other people, I mean, we wouldn't be human if that weren't true. But the bottom line is this is you, this is your life, and your perspective is all that matters.
And not only do I need to
do some soul searching.
I don't want to be soul searching too much, though. Sometimes I want to get out of my head and focus on my surroundings, like you said yesterday. Focus on what I can listen to and what do you call it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't.
Don't be in a hurry to do anything. Just, focus on you. Focus on your perspective. Everything else, that's, I think, secondary to really who you are, what you deserve, what you believe, all of those core values.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay? All right, it was good to see you. I hope you have a great week.
Thank you. Yeah, good to see you too.
No judging yourself.
All right.
Yeah, don't judge yourself.
I think I've done pretty good about it, but it's still hard, yeah.
We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Thanks.
I know. Bye.
All right. Talk to you later. Thanks. I think there was a delay because we kept interrupting each other. And it was less than an hour, so I'm not too shabby. This is crystal clear and thriving. What do you think of my new channel? I've just decided I'm going to put these up on the new channel. All the videos from when I moved out. Yes, sirree, Bob. I am going to have 3 channels. The one that has the first 1,000 videos, the one that has the second 1,000 videos, and then the third one that has the next 1,000 videos. Wow, 1,000 videos. Did I really make 1,000 videos? Yeah, no, I didn't make 1,000 videos. What are you thinking, Crystal? No. That second channel starts off at 1,000, video number 1,001, I think. And then in October, I stopped uploading. That was 1,078 or something like that. And then between October and March, I should be at 1,000. 1,284 or something like that. 1,284. I don't know. 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 I don't know anymore. I don't know where I was at. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks. Bye.